The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. George Bernard Shaw argued that to talk about the tragic Wilde was irrelevant, since Wilde had been the superb comedian of the century, embodying the spirit of comedy not only in his work but also in his life. When at the height of his fame he was sentenced to 2 years' imprisonment for a crime which would no longer be considered a crime, his relationship with Lord Alfred Douglas, his achievement was considerable. But despite these turbulent years, Wilde managed to create his most liberating and unfettered play, The Importance of Being Earnest. Oscar Wilde was born in Dublin on 16 October 1854, son of Sir William Wilde and Jane Francesca Algie. During his life, Wilde gained a great reputation and became a social success because of his wit, his flamboyant dress and eccentric behavior, and his brilliant powers as a talker. In 1891, Wilde started his romantic relationship with Alfred Douglas, which would be his downfall. The Importance of Being Earnest will be the last play ever written by Wilde, and was shown for the first time on 14 February 1895. The play is considered the satire of the Victorian age, where the attention focuses, however entertainingly, on a number of social problems, from education to property and privilege. In fact, with this piece, Wilde celebrates his comic spirit. It is different in kind from anything else he ever wrote. The paradoxical wit operates in the context of a perfectly constructed plot, with a comic end, laughter at the absurdity of human behavior. It revives the spirit of the Restoration comedy, anticipating the theatre of the absurd, reducing everything to nonsense. Wilde says that it is exquisitely trivial, a delicate bubble of fancy, and it has its philosophy. We should treat all the trivial things of life very seriously, and all the serious things of life with studied triviality. The play can be considered from many points of view, in terms of farce, absurd comedy, satire, parody, characterization, and use of language. The play is written in 3 acts. Originally there were 4. Act 1 takes place in Algernon Moncrieff's flat in Half Moon Street. Act 2 in the garden of Jack's manor house. Act 3 in the drawing room at the manor house. Algernon and Jack are 2 aristocratic gentlemen that live in falsehood. Algernon created an uninvented person called Bunbury, a very ill friend that allows him to flee from social events with the excuse of taking care of him. Jack, the guardian of the young Cecily, has invented a reckless brother called Ernest. So every time he gets bored in his manor house he escapes, with the excuse of setting right the umpteenth boast of his fictitious brother. Jack, who is known as Ernest in the city, loves Gwendoline, which mother rejects him as admirer because he is an orphan without a social background. Algernon, pretending to be Jack's reckless brother, goes to the manor house and falls in love with Cecily, a dreamy girl that always wanted to be engaged to a man called Ernest. The 2 gentlemen want to marry their respective women, and they will succeed when Jack finally finds out his origins. Cecily's governess was Jack's nursemaid, and it was her that lost him. Actually, Jack is the son of Lady Bracknell's dead sister, so Algernon's brother. But still the problem of the name lingers, given that nobody remembers the name of Jack and Algernon's father. In the end, we find out that his name was really Ernest. Wilde's humor is full of nonsense, equivocal, irony and wordplay. The name Ernest, which in Italian would be translated as Franco, synonym of honest, makes the whole play so interesting, based from the title on a contradiction for which the protagonists, two regular liars, are known with the name of Ernest. Cecily and Gwendoline won't ever marry them if their names were not Ernest. This is a name that makes them quiver, that makes them think of a man that loves them, sincere, honest, but most of all a man that despises them with absolute confidence. The Italian edition of Wilde's play has a serious problem of translation. The original title uses wordplay impossible to translate between the adjective earnest, which means serious, honest, and the proper male name Ernest, which have the same pronunciation in English. So it's up to the Italian translator on how to better render the title. Many times it's translated in l'importanza di chiamarsi onesto or l'importanza di chiamarsi fedele, because in Italian onesto and fedele are names and they are also mean sincere. But often translators renounce the wordplay and use l'importanza di chiamarsi onesto, renouncing the seriousness that the English earnestness meant and also renouncing the wordplays in the play, especially in the ending sentence that is a critique to a society covered by moral exhortation.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta. I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
The Italian translation of Wilde's play that better combines the word earnest with a common name is L'importanza di essere franco, used rarely by the Italian publishing houses. The important films that have represented the story have been two. The first one was made in 1952, which was a success thanks to the interpretation of great actors. The second one was made more recently, in 2002, and had the honor of being interpreted by actors like Colin Firth, Rupert Everett, Judi Dench, Reese Witherspoon, and Tom Wilkinson. The film is quite faithful to the play, although there are some little differences. The most evident is that the film is not divided into acts, but there are changes of scene in the locations, probably to brighten up a film that would have been a bit too static otherwise. Exactly for this reason, also the dynamic of some episodes have been modified. One first example can be found in the first scene of the film, where it has been decided to create a different situation compared to the play to give a greater characterization to the figure of Algernon, which finds himself escaping from the solicitors because of his debts. The beginning of the play refers to a more static scene in Algernon flat, an episode that will appear only later in the film. A watchful observer won't miss the detail of the protagonist's age, which in the play is 28 and 35 in the film. In my opinion, this choice was made because of the real age of the actor, which hardly would seem a man of 28. What's more, that scene is profoundly different, highlighting, as already said, the necessity of the film director to change as much as possible the locations, moving the interview of Lady Bracknell and Jack from Algernon's flat to the lady's house, which would be absent otherwise. The director Oliver Parker also decided to add other scenes that are not found in the play, so to liven up the comedy. For instance, when Jack announces his brother Ernest's death, when actually he is there in the manor house with him, Algernon pretends that the telegram of his death was a joke invented by him. The scene where Cecily and Algernon play the piano, or Dr. Chasuble's marriage proposal to Miss Prism. While the character of Frisby the solicitor was not invented, but present only in the film. In fact, this scene comes from Act 4 of the play, later eliminated by Wilde. Naturally, also the end has its differences. The last phrase of the play lets the reader assume that Jack's real name is Ernest. But this is called into question in the film, with the introduction of a book where is clearly shown to the audience the last and slight lie of the play. The real name of Jack is actually Jack. Personally, I'm in step with the film director. In its whole, the film has maintained all the great characteristics created by Wilde, fitting in with the cinema's necessities. Despite the fact that I had already appreciated the play years ago, I read it again with great pleasure. Like many of us know, this apparently simple play is one of the most brilliant and hardly compared comedies with modern authors.